Porque eres como el nombre de
I
mi
think
hijo va a
after
ganar.
that, we could probably just pack it up. If that's what convince you, my God, nothing I say will at this point. No, a huge shout out to all of you for coming out here. Thank you, Patricia and Bob, for everything you've done. And then Amanda, oh, where'd you go? There you are. And David for opening up their homes, and all of you, in some way, shape, or form, you've all done something, and I really do appreciate that significantly. Because throughout this race, that is one of the things that has become very apparent to me, right? I feel that we are starting to see a divide, especially as we're getting close to the primary, where it really is being viewed in some circles as kind of like more establishment or corporate versus grassroots versus outsiders. And I'll tell you, I'm very proud to be the outsider, right? I've been an outsider my whole life, and I think it's worked out pretty well. So I will tell you a little bit about myself, and I will tell you about my background. If some of you have heard this, I apologize, bear with me, but I will basically let you know how we got to this point where we're all in front of this beautiful yard here and hang out with each other. So, first generation Colombian American. If you haven't figured that out by then, you're not going to figure out the rest of this. Born to immigrant parents. My parents worked very hard, right? I remember when I was growing up, my parents had a variety of blue-collar jobs at any point in life. My dad was a waiter, a chef, a valet, a janitor. Eventually, he was a truck driver. My mom worked at a factory. My mom was a hostess and a waitress, right? Worked at a travel agency for a little bit. But my parents did something very hard. Something that I think in today's climate is probably impossible. They saved up money. They were able to buy a house. And they started a business together. And they made a lot of sacrifices for my younger brother and I. And their blood, sweat, and tears led to a lot of beauty in our lives, right? Life got good, right? The business picked up and things got good, and then came the Great Recession. Who remembers that? Yeah. So when the Great Recession hit, my parents, unfortunately, they didn't go out of business, but they got pretty level, so things got hard. And coincidentally, this was around the time that I was entering college. And in my family, one of the things that we realized and that I was taught is that in this country, the best, strongest vehicle for social mobility is a good education. And so I knew I had to do it. So I did. I got a full-time job. I worked full-time while I went to school full-time. I finished in 3.5 years. I graduated with honors. Later on in life, I went on to get my MBA from UNC, and I'm almost done with my second master's in international relations from Seton Hall.
Congratulations.
Woo!
If you can't tell, I really like education. Sometimes I wish I could just take classes and stuff like that, but I can't do that. But one of the things about when I was going to college is that I'm also a very proud beneficiary of Pell Grants. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for Pell Grants, I don't know if I would be here today. And that's why, to me, the attack that we're seeing from this administration on the Department of Education, the way that they're ripping funding from the same programs that I benefited from, not because I was trying to milk the system or because I'm part of the parasite class, but it's programs that eventually allowed me to build a business and do a lot of things. To me, that's an attack, right? Because the opportunities that were afforded to me as a kid, I want to make sure that the next kid like me has those same opportunities. And that's why I support not just reversing the big terrible bill for a million reasons, this being one of them, but I actually think we need to go further when it comes to education. I think we need to expand access to education, whether it's ensuring that Pell Grants are rising with the cost of living, that we're opening up more opportunities around financial channels for people who want to go and get their four-year degrees, but we don't stop at the four-year degrees, right? We know that in our country, there's lots of ways to be a productive member of our society, and I will tell you that we've got a generation of people that are retiring, people that are plumbers and HVAC, roofers, right? And a four-year degree is not for everyone. And I think that it's important that as a society we value that. And one of the ways we value that is all of the opportunities that we offer people that want to pursue a four-year degree. Those same opportunities are to be offered to people who are seeking accredited trade schools.
Absolutely. Right.
So I entirely support anything that opens up those channels, because ultimately it's not just because it's what's right, but it's also what's in the best interest of our economy.
That's right.
So after college, I get my first corporate job, and I'm in sales, and I love it. It's great, right? I'm finally like, I feel much more independent than I ever have before, and I'm like, this is great. I'm gonna finally move out, and I'm gonna like do like what they do in those rom-com movies, and like they like all hang out after work, and it looks awesome. Yeah, if you're laughing, you watch as many rom-com movies as I have, right? Because it just looks so cool. But life had a little bit of a different plan. And so about a month, and I kid you not, about a month after I started my corporate career, my mom unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer. And that was a big shock to my family. We did not see that coming, and as time went on, my parents, from the Great Recession, they never really recovered, but with my mom's illness, my parents eventually ended up going out of business. And we had always been a very close family, and so at a young age, I stepped up, and I became the breadwinner of my family. At 22, 23 years old, I knew what it was like to be behind on your mortgage, and to be behind on your credit card bills and your car payments. And yes, it took a while, it took years, but I'm proud to say that I was able to save my childhood home from foreclosure.
Oh, yeah. Amen.
Thank you. And it worked out financially, right? But it really made me think, especially as I've been running, because when you're running for office, you kind of start to develop like a larger view, almost like a larger view. I'm going to use the word larger for a lack of a better word at the moment. And one of the things that I started kind of thinking about is, my gosh, like I was able to step up for my family, thank goodness. But how many families are out there that don't have that?
That's right.
That don't have someone that can step in, right? And to me, to live in a world where our healthcare system is so broken that you could literally lose your home because you got sick, to me that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And it's one of the reasons that I'm a big proponent for Medicare for All. And here's what David and I disagree a little bit here. Just a little bit, right? But with the
We haven't heard my point of view.
yeah, he's got a good case. I'll say he's got a good case. But look, ultimately, we live in the greatest country in the world. And we have the best doctors, we've got the best hospitals, but somehow we are paying the most per capita amongst developed nations. And at the same time, we've got one of the worst qualities of care. Make it make sense, please. And Medicare for All may not be perfect, but it's working in other countries, and it's proven to we know it reduces the cost and improves the quality of care. So unless you can show me something better than that, that's the direction I'm sticking with.
Woo!
Very good.
She ends up passing. And so that's a really big blow to her. I mean, huge. Not even just my immediate family, but like my surrounding family. Like my mom was literally the glue. And my parents were really close. My dad, I feel like he couldn't tie a shoe without my mom. And so my dad was left in shambles. And eventually my dad moved back to Colombia, which I encouraged because that's what he needed for healing. But when my mom passed, as I mentioned, I've got a younger brother, and he was 13 at the time. So life threw a new challenge, raising a teenager. And 13 and 14 and 15 were fine, but 16 and 17 were tougher years. And I learned, and a lot of parents know this, maybe even some older siblings, that it is possible to truly love someone with everything you've got. And it's totally reasonable to want to kick them out a window. No judgment here. But we got through that okay, and my brother now has a girlfriend who somehow puts up with him, so we love her. We send her good energy. She's amazing. And no, I'm just kidding. My brother's great, and he's got a career in the auto industry, and that part has worked out, right? But we went through a lot there.